Hey there, my name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path. Today I want to show you my newest design that I call the Orb Bangle. This bangle is really fun to make and wear. And they're great because they're thin enough to where you can wear them by themselves, or you can stack them and wear several together at one time. So here's what you're going to need for the project. You're going to need 8 grams of a size 11, or sorry, a size 8 Delica. Now, I will tell you, I made my bangles about a 7.5. I normally wear a 7 to a 7.25 bracelet, and I made the bangle a 7.5 and used the Nozue Sonoko thread so that I could slide it right onto my wrist and not worry about it. So if you need something bigger than that, or you're going to use a fire line or something that's going to be stiff and not actually expandable a little bit, you'll definitely need more. You'll need more, like 10 grams of a size 8 Delica. Now this is going to be the base of the bracelet. The next thing you need is a size 11 seed bead, and this is a regular 11. You're going to need about 3 grams. You're going to need a size 15 seed bead. The 15 seed bead is going to be on the top of the bracelet. You're going to see it a lot. You're going to need about 4 to 5 grams of that. And then you're going to need some 4mm beads. I'm going to be using a 4mm round thunder polish crystal. You can use a bicone. You can probably use a thunder or a fire polish round bead, but I don't think it'll work out as well with the design because it took me several tries to finally get this the way I wanted it. So that's what I'm going to be using, and like I said, I am going to be using the Nozue Sonoko thread. This is different from Sono thread, okay? The Nozue Sonoko thread for the base. This is the same thread that I used for the twisted tubular herringbone and the tubular peyote stitch bracelet bangle that I made. It's a little bit expandable. So I did this for the base, and then I used a regular 1G thread for the top. Now you can use Fireline, you can use Sono, you can use whatever you want to basically for this bangle, but just know different products will give you different results. Like I said, for the bangles that I made them a 7.5, so that way, even though this around my hand is like an 8.5 inches, I'm still able to get this over my hand because of using that Nozue Sonoko thread. If you don't have this, we do have it on our website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. So I'm going to start out with 3 yards of this Nozue Sonoko on my needle. So whatever you're going to start with 3 yards. That's going to do a majority of the base, and you will have to add thread in the project. I've got my needle threaded onto my 3 yards of my Nozue Sonoko, and I'm going to start out by picking up 76 size 8 Delicas, and this is going to be for about a 7.5 bracelet. If you need smaller, you need to add less beads. If you need larger, you need to add more beads. Just know, however much you add, you need to make sure that you do that in even numbers. So just start picking up your beads until you have your desired amount, which I said I was going to do 76 onto mine. I wanted to show you real quick the finished bangle that I made for 76 start out is going to be right at the 7.5 as far as the bangle is concerned. When I take my 76 beads and I wrap them around the base, it's going to be right at 7 3/4 if I pull it tightly. So you can see however many base beads you're going to add, it's going to make it about a 1/4 inch smaller. So my actual beads I'm going to start out with are 7 3/4, but my finished is going to be 7.5, and that'll give you an idea as to how many beads you'll need to add once you have all your beads on there. You're going to let the beads fall to the center of the thread. So you're going to have a really long tail on one end. Take your needle and you're going to go back through the first bead. Now you can go back through the very first bead you added. I go through a few just so it gives me a couple of beads to kind of hang on to as I work. Doesn't matter how many you go through. But then you're just going to pull that thread. And so it's going to leave you with a circle of beads. Now comes the peyote stitch. You're going to pick up one Delica. I'm coming out of one Delica. I'm going to skip a Delica, and I'm going to go through the next one. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put my finger on that bead and pull the thread. And when I do that, that's going to pop the new bead right next to the bead that I skipped. I'm going to pick up one Delica. And see, this is what gives you something, that tail to kind of hold on to until you get a good start here. I'm coming out of a Delica. I'm going to skip a Delica, and I'm going to go through a Delica. The great thing about these size 8 seed beads, they're a lot easier to hang on to as you work. So again, you pick up a Delica, you skip a Delica, and then you go through one. So you're going to continue to do this all the way around the circle. I've come to the end of the row because I can only add one more bead. So I'm going to pick up my bead, skip a bead, and go through my bead. And these are all the beads that I can add on this row. Now I need to step up. So I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come right up through the first bead on the row, which is this bead here, and I'm going to pull that on through. And I'm going to set that aside. Now take the other thread and put you a needle onto your tail thread. This is the other thread that you had. Right now, that thread should be coming out of a single bead. And you want to take and step up by going through the bead right above where the thread is exiting and pull that on through. You want to pick up a Delica and go through the next Delica that's sticking up. Pick up a Delica, go through the next Delica that's sticking up. And you're going to do this whole round. I've gone all the way around, and I have one last bead to add. So if I go through the next bead sticking up, it's going to be this one. This will finish out the row. And then I'm going to step up by going through the first bead in the row that I'm currently working on. So I'll go through 2 beads at one time and go ahead and pull that thread through. Then I'll set that thread to the side and work another row with my other thread from the other end. So again, you're doing it just like the previous row. So all you're doing is picking up one Delica and going through the next Delica sticking up. And you're going to do that all the way around. And I'm to the last bead of the row. So for this bead, you go through the last bead, and then we step up through the first bead that we added in this row. So now we have the base row complete, and we're ready to go on to the embellishments. I know I'm going to get some questions, so I'll go ahead and address it. I know somebody's going to email me and say, why can't you just make your ring of beads and then do so many rows with this same thread for the base of the bangle? Well, you can do that. The only problem is that you need this bracelet to be the exact tension on both sides. So what's going to happen is if you start out and you say, okay, I'm going to make my circle and I'm going to do this many rows across. Well, what's going to happen is those first couple of rows that you do are going to be a little bit loose, or they're going to be too tight. And then as you work your way over, you're either going to get looser or tighter depending on how you stitch. It's very hard when you're doing something in this diameter to get the exact tension from start to finish. So that's the reason why you want to start in the middle and work your way out on each side. This allows you to have a good even tension throughout the piece, because you're going to have to fold this piece together as we work and we add the embellishments. And if you got it too tight on one side, it's going to snap and you're going to be really upset. And you can't be upset with me because I'm sitting here telling you right now the correct way to do it. So now that that's said, we can continue on with the project. It doesn't matter which side you start on to do this, but you're coming out of a Delica that's sticking up. You're going to pick up 3 11s, and you're going to go through the next Delica that's sticking up. And you're going to do this all the way around. So you're picking up 3 Delicas, or 3 11s, just regular 11s, excuse me, and you're going through the next Delica sticking up. And you're going to do this all the way around on this side, and then all the way around on the other side. As you work and you add your embellishments, you might find it beneficial that as you work to kind of start folding the pieces together like this, so that way it won't be so stiff and flat as you try to work with it. So it's going to give you a little channel almost instead of staying flat. So again, to do that, all you have to do as you work is just take your pieces where you're at and then just kind of fold them together just like this. And this was what I was talking about earlier, as if you try to do it, you know, start on one side on the base and then work your way to the other side, it might get tight and you're not going to get as good of channel as you need for your beads. So you'll just continue to add and continue to fold. And once you get around to the side that you started with, or once you get back around, you'll want to take and step up so that we're ready to start the next row of the embellishments. So I've just added my last set of 3 here. And then to step up, I'm going to go through the first 2 beads of a set of 3 that I added. Now I did this on the other side also, so I'm stepped up on both sides. And now you're ready for the 4mm embellishments, which are going to go in between this little channel of beads that you created. One 4mm. Now this can be your round or your bicone. Right now, my thread is exiting out of the right side of the middle bead of this set of 3. So I'm going to come directly opposite to this set of 3, and I'm going to go through that middle 11-0 and pull this on through. Now once you get it pulled through, you are going to go back through the crystal again, and I'm going to put my finger on it and I'm going to pull that thread tight. Now when you pull it, make sure that this bead stays straight just like this and doesn't turn. Then we want to go back through the same 11 that we were just coming out of. And now remember, the thread was coming out to the right, so I'm going to go through that bead from left to right. So essentially, it'll be coming out in that same direction. And as you can see, I keep my finger on it and I pull so that now that bead is in place. Now you'll go through the next 11, 8, and then through 2 11s. And we're going to do this again. Give me just 1 second though, because my needle came unthreaded. So we want to thread on a 4mm. And just like just a minute ago, the thread is coming out to the right. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to go right across to the side middle 11 here across from where I'm exiting. Go back through that same 4mm you just added, and I'm going to keep my finger on it as I pull, so that way it'll stay tight in its place. And then I'm going to go through this 11 once more, going from left to right, so that way I'm always working in that same position. So now you go through the 11 and the 8, and then through 2 11s. You pick up the 4mm, go through the 11-0 opposite where you're exiting. Then you want to go back through the crystal again, and again I put my finger on it to hold it into place. And this bead is trying to flop around sideways, so all that is the thread is getting caught around it. So you just pull it and make it go into the way it should be. And then just go through your 11-0 from left to right, so that way it centers that crystal. And you're going to continue adding the crystals until this thread runs out. Then once this thread runs out, you can tie it off, and then I'll show you how to get started with the other thread. I've been going around working and adding my crystals, but the only problem is I ran out of thread on that side. So I went ahead and tied that thread off with some high-pitched knots. Now I have a couple of options. Here is where I ended, and here's my thread, and here's where I started. So I think my best bet is going to be to come back here and then work my way around. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to back out from where I had stepped up. Well, nope. I'm going to go through the next 11 and 8. And then I'm going to work back in the direction where I started so that I can get back to here. So I'm stitching through the size 8 Delicas. And as you can see, this step's a little harder because you got lots of beads in your way. Okay, so I'm going to go through 2 more beads here. Then through the bead right next to where I'm coming out, and then through the 2 11s. So it basically gets me back to this crystal so that now I can continue to work until I meet this crystal. And then I'll tie off this thread. All the way around now. And as you can see, at this point, it's kind of wobbly and it's still kind of scrunchy. But don't worry, because the next step that we do is going to help fix all of that. So I've got a new piece of thread threaded on, and I'm using my 1G thread. You can use the Nozue Sonoko, you can use your fire line, whatever you want to. But I've got 2 yards onto my needle, and I'm going to take and go under the thread here between an 11 and an 8. And then I'm just going to take and tie those 2 threads together and make sure that my thread, or that little knot, goes in between 2 of my beads. And then I'll go ahead and put 1 more knot in there. And I'm going to leave myself a long enough tail that when I get finished with this thread, I can stitch this back through and not have to worry about that little tail. But I'm going to stitch to come out of the middle bead of a set of 3 of the 11-ohs. This is the one that you've already went through to add your crystals. You want to pick up 2 15s, 1 11, and 2 15s. And then take your needle and go through the middle 11 of the next set of 3. And it's going to make a little peacoat net looking piece. So that's 2 15s, an 11, and 2 15s. And go through the middle bead of your next set of 3. And you want to go all the way around on this side, adding these beads. And when you get back to this first loop that you added, you'll step up through the 2 15s and the 11. And that'll get you ready for the next part of the knitting. So I've gone all the way around, adding my embellishments. And I stepped up through the first 2 15s and the 11 that I added. Now I'm going to turn it just a little bit so that I can work from side to side. So I'm coming out of that 11 and I'm going to pick up 2 15s and I'm going to come to the next 11 that's connected to a crystal. So I'm coming out of the center here and I'm going to come to the next middle 11-oh, which will be here, and I'm going to pull that thread. Then I'm going to pick up 2 15s and I'm going to go through the next 11 on the other side, which is going to be this center 11 between my 15s. And when you pull, you want to pull this tight, because what this is going to do is this is going to help to pull these beads around or these seed beads around our crystals. And this is also going to help pull the sides tight so it'll look and be much better. So 2 15s, and you come across to this left hand side and go through the middle 11-0. And then 2 15s. And go through the middle 11-0 on the right side. Now this is going to be the one in between our 15s. So on the left side, you're actually going through the ones connected to the crystals. On the right side, you're going through the ones that are through the 11s that are between your 15s. So you're going to continue in this zigzag motion until you've gone all the way around. So once you've gone all the way around, this is what your finished piece will look like. As you can see, it is now stiff and everything is nice and even because we have gone through and added those. And as you can see, they stack really, really great together if you wanted to wear multiples of them. So this one here I made with the metallic bronze iris with the purple light fire polish. My 11 is a bronze and my 15 was the metallic gold. This one, my 8-0 was, let me see if I can find it, matte opaque cobalt blue. Then I used a matte rainbow 11, a light blue 15, and then the dark sapphire AB for the rounds on that one. And then this bottom one is a metallic blue gray for my Delicas. Then I used the nickel for the 11s, a matte gray for the 15s, and then a silver 4mm. So those are the 3 samples for the Orb Bangle. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make the Orb Bangle. We will have the written pattern for sale on our website, as well as the 3 color kits that I showed you today on our website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Thank you guys for watching, and come back next time to see another great beading tutorial. Bye-bye!